Good morning and welcome back. Randy Harris here with Moral Conservative. What I try to do here on this podcast, you can also find me on my YouTube channel, Facebook, Telegram, but primarily Spotify and the podcast app. What I try to do here with Moral Conservative is very simple. I take the current events of what's going on in the world today, politically, socially, culturally. I try to tie them into the biblical, what the Bible says, a biblical perspective, or discerning the times that we live in. So that's what I try to do. And I want to share with you something that I know this is out there and probably a lot of people have already heard it, but I want to give you a biblical perspective on what's going on here. This is important. It's prophetic journalism, if you will. So I want to share this with you today. A report that I found on Breitbart, written by, Written by Joel B. Pollack. I want to give him credit for this. It's probably everywhere by now, but I just want to share with you from a biblical perspective. The report says, the headline, Biden considering unilateral recognition of Palestinian state. Now, if you remember back last summer, in the fall, I made the comment about the supposed peace treaty that Biden was trying to make, our pretend president was trying to make with Saudi Arabia and Israel. Now, the Saudis and Israel both wanted a peace treaty to go through. One of the sticking points, actually there was probably two sticking points. One was that Saudi Arabia wanted a mutual defense pact with the United States, which I would be totally against. I would not do it. But that was one thing. The other was the Biden administration privately was beginning to push hard for Bibi Netanyahu to accept a two-state solution, accept a Palestinian recognized state. And Bibi said, no, we can't do it. I was fearful that at that time that it may snowball into something that Bibi felt like he had to accept, which would be a detriment, number one, to Israel, most importantly, a detriment to the United States of America. You see, the Bible says that those that bless Israel shall be blessed, and those that curse Israel shall be cursed. Now, I know in the Republican Party, I was a part of the executive committee in a county, very red county. There is not the greatest of love, I don't think, for sending money overseas and even to Israel. I don't understand why this administration does everything it can to block what is right, what is biblically good for America, and then wants to accept and promote everything that is a disgrace to the Christian community and to morality in the United States of America. I do not understand that. It happens so often, there must be only one reason. That is their standard of operation. They are pushing evil. They don't care about the blessing of God because they're serving another God, and I think that's where we're at. Now, why do I say that on this story? Because God does not want his land. He has gotten his people back in his land, Israel. They don't have all the land that was promised them in the book of Genesis. Anybody that tries to cause Israel to give land back that is theirs, God will judge that nation in some way or another, whether it be storms, hurricanes, economically, God will judge them. Now, thankfully, God has only been very merciful to the United States in what we've done. So I warned you about that late last fall in a couple of podcasts. We talked about it. October the 7th happens. Israel is at peace with, as much at peace as it can be, not causing any problems, not trying to do anything out of the way. Hamas comes in, sneak attacks, killing women, children, taking hostages. Biden is all for Israel and fighting back. Biden is leading the charge. Yes, we agree with him. We're standing with him, etc. And I told you on a one podcast, I'm not sure which one it was, I said, you got to watch him because he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Look, I know the Democratic Party, and I know the pretend president's administration because Obama is behind it. And I know Obama. He loves the Arabs. He is a Muslim. He has mentioned that before. Nobody really picks up on it. Look, he wants to be a Muslim, that's fine. But he is supposed to have the and Biden is pro Arab and pro Muslim. This administration, with whoever's calling the shot, I believe Obama, is always going to take the side against Israel. So now they've come out with this saying the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has reportedly asked the State Department to review options for a unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state. Now, number one, this is a trial balloon, I believe. Let's see what happens if we put this out and see how much kickback we get. Well, they should be getting a lot of kickback. You want to take the side of a group of people that have sworn enemies that will not uphold any peace treaty. They've been offered land before and they've refused it. We went through this a couple of times before with Clinton, with Carter, with other people that have tried. Obama, they've all tried. Nothing works. You've even got the Arab nations that do not want the Hamas and the Palestinian people in their country because they're fearful of what they're going to do. Hamas literally means, in Hebrew, murder or violence. Now, what Biden's trying to do now is stick this out there to see what kind of feedback he gets. So I'm sure this is just just to stick it out to see if it sticks. You know, it's a trial balloon. And that's what happens politically. Governments, when administrations want to do something, they know it's not popular, they throw it out there hoping they can get enough backing to override. So what they're trying to do, and what they've been trying to do almost since the middle of November, is to get Israel to stop fighting, a ceasefire, getting Israel to allow Hamas to basically replenish their supplies because they're using the people of Gaza, but the people of Gaza are like 80 to 85% pro-Hamas. So what you're doing, and what we're finding out now, is that some of the hostages have been housed in private homes. So where do you separate the jihadists, Hamas, from those that are agreeing with Hamas? There's a fine line there. So this has been thrown out there. Now this should be a warning. For decades, this has not been the U.S. policy. This is a dramatic change. This is a sea shift and change. If you were to begin to back a two-state solution and recognize diplomatically the nation of Palestine, because it is not a nation, okay? And I'm sure this story was leaked so that we could get some feedback on it. This whole time, Biden has been in one way talking out of both sides of his mouth. I mentioned that to you before. He says he supports Israel, but then he wants them to stop fighting. He wants them to give up. He wants them to back off. Listen, Bibi has said no to a two-state solution. Pressure will be put upon him. I will tell you this, the Bible plainly says, those who bless Israel shall be blessed, and those who curse Israel shall be cursed. Now, this is not a spoken curse against Israel, but it comes very close because of what Biden is doing is interfering in the internal affairs of what is best for Israel. Blinken is out there running around talking to people behind their back. In private, they're saying, we got to get him to accept this. It's the only way to cause peace to come. Here it is before the election. And I guarantee you, this is a blitzkrieg to try to get something good that can be looked upon, not only to shore up his radical Luciferian left, which is pro-Hamas, the Squad and all the other radical leftists out there. They're not really in favor of Israel. They look at them as an apartheid state. They are anything but. You look at the nations of the Arab nations, they are the apartheid states, not Israel. Be careful, President Biden, what you do. Be careful, Obama administration, working through Biden, what you do. God says if you bless Israel, you shall be blessed, and if you curse Israel, you shall be cursed. This is a fundamental word, a fact that God has given to anybody that will listen. Do not try to cause a separation of the land of Israel. Do not try to get them to give up what God has given them and will eventually give all back to them. Now, I just want to shut this down. I know everybody's probably sick and tired of hearing some of the things I say about Israel, but I'm telling you how important it is. It is very, very important for us to understand, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we must be supporting Israel. Do we like everything they do? No. Are they a Christian nation? No. Are they even a religious nation? No, they're really not. They're a secular nation. However, there are many Messianic Jews, Jesus-believing Jews. There is also a somewhat a beginning stirring of some of the people in Israel, some of the even the Orthodox and others that are beginning and talking about the return of the Messiah. Now, I had a podcast back way long time ago. It wasn't a podcast, but it was on YouTube, that some of the people there are looking for the Messiah. They're starting to talk about looking for the Messiah. These are all things that talk about the end times, the last days, etc. So when you take this and look at this biblically, you understand that we are on shaky ground in America. We got to be careful how we deal with Israel. The Bible says in Zechariah that Israel will become in the last days a cup of trembling to the whole world, and that's what it is. Anti-Semitism is an anti-God, anti-Christian reaction to the Jews. And remember what the jihadists have said. We come for the Saturday people first, then we come for the Sunday people. Just as surely as the Nazis came and started with the gypsies and others, they finally ended up with the Jewish people. That's exactly what will happen. And for this nation, birthed as a Christian nation, turns its back on Israel and pushes them into doing something that God does not want done, we will face some consequence. There's no doubt about that. So that's the latest happening. Behind the scenes, pushing for it, putting pressure on Bibi, going to the Saudis, going to Qatar, trying to get public support for this so that pressure can be put on Israel to accept this. If they accept a Palestinian state, there will be nonstop violence over the next few years. That's all there can be. And then what happens, my fear is what happens, and I may be right and I may be wrong. I don't know. But my fear is if America recognizes a Palestinian state, then the next time there's a skirmish, there's going to be immediate calls for a ceasefire and immediate calls for Israel to back up and leave a sovereign nation alone. You see, now we're talking about a terrorist and we're talking about people that are trying to destroy Israel for no cause. In the future, if they have some kind of statehood or acknowledgement of having a state, then that would be a whole different ballgame. Anyway, that's the way I look at it, and that's the way I fear. Hey, just remember one thing. You were on this earth at this particular time because God knew you had the ability, the talent, and you understood biblical prophecy and end times enough to be a discerner of the times. And I want you to know, read your word. If you bless Israel and pray for the peace of Jerusalem, pray for God to have his way and his will in that nation and with the people of Israel. I want you to know how much I appreciate all of you listening, and I want you to know this. You were born for such a time as this. God bless each and every one of you. Hope you have a great day.